I'm the artist behind the paintings for Lives Illuminated, Dreams Illuminated. And the painting I'm working on now is a portrait of a young woman from Greece named Dali Florentine. And Dali was 16 years old when she was murdered in the Auschwitz death camp. And I'm painting her portrait both to honor her memory, a life that did not get to unroll, and I'm painting her portrait as a warning of what happens when hatred is loose in a society. And so she's a stunningly beautiful young woman. It just came to me. When I looked at her face, well, in the photograph, you can see she has like a folkloric Greek dress on. And it has big, I imagine they were embroidered flowers. And I just thought, God, I'd love to give her those flowers and just, embrace her with nature, with beauty. And I'm working on capturing that spirit that I see in her photo. So I'm almost finished with this. What I need to do, I want to bring out some of the contrast in the flowers. So I'm taking you can see my messy palette. I always promise myself with every painting that I'm going to keep the palette neat, and it never happens, never, never, ever. So I've mixed a kind of a darker pink tone, and I'm going to go in and give these a little more mixing up the right, a little more depth. And sometimes the best thing to use is your finger. Normally I wear gloves, but I'm not. That's a big no-no because there are toxic elements in paint that you don't want your skin absorbing. So I will put on gloves next time. So see, you can see immediately that it's giving more dimension to the petals, to have some darker areas. And I use a medium, a glazing medium that thins the paint so that it's not, so I can get it to blend right in. Get some more dark, a little more purpley. For the pretty pink peonies, say that fast. Do you have a favorite flower? I think peonies are, if not my very favorite, one of my favorites. They make appearances in lots of my paintings because they're just so hopeful. I'm just going to go around wherever I think it needs a little bit of depth. Because essentially anything, whether you're painting a rock or you're painting a person or you're painting a glass of milk, all it is darks, the shadows, the lights, and the midtones. So that's all you need. Dark, the shadows, the lights, and then the rest of it. And the work is balancing it all out. And if you don't want to use your finger to blend, sometimes I use, it's called a hog bristle brush. And it's a stiffer, spikier brush. And you can use it to like really scrub in there and blend the colors.
Lauren, we have a comment from one of the viewers at Melissa Stark 1 wants to know, what if you make it too dark, and how do you know if you are making it too dark in the shadowy areas?
Well, let's try it. So let's go in and make a mistake here. Okay, I definitely feel like that spot is too dark. So if I decide quickly, I can just put a little of the medium on a cloth and wipe it down. Wow, actually that worked. I don't even need to paint over it because I really like, right now I wiped it down. But say I had let it dry and it was too dark, I would just go back in with a lighter color. The nice thing about oil paints is that you can paint in many, many, many layers. So you don't like one layer, you can go back in. Worst case scenario, you can get a razor blade and scrape it off, but that is a very rare, or hopefully, you don't want to be doing that as anything other than a last resort.
John Starks 5 wants to know how you know where to put the shadows.
Okay, well, I'm thinking about where light is hitting them. And, really that's my imagination in this painting because it's kind of a fantastical background. I'm just thinking, what areas do I want to recede and get the feeling that the light parts are just popping right out. So you can see that it didn't take much. It didn't take many hard changes, and I feel like the flower just really is more vibrant. And I may pick at it a little more, but I'm pretty happy with the distance between the darks and the lights. Like if you go on a scale from black to white, you want to hit some pretty dark darks and some light lights to give it a real, balance of depth. And right now I'm pretty happy with the balance. What do you think?
I think it looks great. I think it looks very, very realistic, and you're doing great. And that brings us to our next question. Stacey Abrams says, how would you describe your style? It seems very bright and vibrant, but yet realistic, sometimes whimsical.
My heroes are from like the mid 20th century American artists like Edward Hopper, where it is realism, but it's not like classic Renaissance, more photorealism. I like or another artist of my favorites, Frida Kahlo. You know, where it's real, but there's an element of surrealism, and the emphasis is more on the narrative, the story, rather than the technique. Does that answer it?
I think so. We have another question. You paint the hair beautifully and very realistic. The question from @John Simmons is, how do you do that?
Well, hair, like they go in and they paint each hair. They're photorealists, and it's mind-boggling. That's not my goal. My goal is to get the feeling of hair, to get the motion, the flow, without getting bogged down in too many details. So I go for the shape initially. I have this brush that I've cut into little spikes, so that this is my secret sauce. And I make like a group of hairs, like the spikes make little hairs. Again, the darks, the lights, and the rest of the midtones. Here she's like in a jungle, so her hair isn't getting any real hot light. Maybe I'll go in with a few whites, but you know, I map out the shapes of the hair, and then I'll use a very, you can see, very fine brush.
Didn't you say that was toxic paint on the...
Yeah, this is a clean brush. Clean brush. Don't worry. Let's eat paint.
We can't have anything happen to you now.
And then I'll just paint like groups of individual hairs, and just, you know, as many as I feel like.
How do you start out, and where do you start? I mean, this is a pretty big painting. This is what, probably a 40 by 30 canvas, or it's not actually canvas, it's wood?
Yeah, it's a wood.
Where do you start?
I start with a sketch, you know, and then I'll transfer the sketch onto the board. I have...
I mean, like erase it, or you look at it, draw it out, or paint it?
So here I'm sketching something for my next painting. And this is the, you know, just the mock-up, the little maquette that I'll do before a big painting. And I don't know if you can see it, but I just do it first in pencil, get some of the darks and lights, and I'll paint this in a much looser way. And once, you know, I just have a sense of where I want it to go, I'll draw it onto the board and get the drawing, not too detailed, but you know, a good map of where I want it to go. And then I'll start the first layer. I use just a one color. I use raw umber, which is a very neutral brown, and I'll use it in a very thin layer and just map in the darks. And then I'll start with color after that dries. So it's many, many, many layers.
Awesome. How long does it take you to make a painting like this from start to finish?
This painting has to date been 4.5 weeks. So between 4 and 6 weeks, depending on the complexity.
And what's left to be done, and how do you know when it's done? Do you always, as long as it's sitting in your studio, do you always fiddle with it?
Yes, it's a problem. I have 2 paintings over on the wall there that if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, are they done? I would have said yes, but now, also what happens is the oil paint settles and some of the vibrancy settles in. So I see, like now after a few weeks, I want some more lights that pop, and I want some brighter flesh tones. They call it glazing. It's a technique from the Renaissance where you use very thin washes of transparent reds and blues and greens to get the flesh to really look alive. So this, you know, I'm just going to go through getting the darks in the flowers, bringing them to life, and so I have to, this is too wet. I want that to get a little darker. Also here, a little darker, and that'll be it. But right now, it's too wet to work on. So in a few days. Thank you for watching. Let me know any questions, any comments. I'd love to hear from you. And let's do it again.